In Sicily, Dionysius continued to consolidate his power. He took part in the rebuilding of Messana and also took part in the founding of the new city of Tyndaridae. Dionysius then conducted several campaigns against the Siculi, during which he captured their cities of Menenion and Morgantina, as well as several other Sicilian cities. However, in an attempt to capture Tauromenium, he failed, and in one of the battles was knocked down and almost captured, and the Carthaginian army reappeared in Sicily. It was led by a commander named Magon. He made alliances with several Siculian cities, and after replenishing his army, launched an attack on the possessions of Messana. After ravaging the surrounding countryside and capturing a large booty, he retired to a camp near the city of Abatena, which was allied to him. Dionysius soon arrived there and gave the Carthaginians a battle in which he gained the upper hand. Having lost 800 men, the Carthaginians retreated. After that, Dionysius made an attempt to capture Regius, but failed and went back to Syracuse. The next year in Sicily, at the disposal of Magon, was an army recruited in Africa, in Sardinia, and even in Italy. Carthaginian commander went the proven way through the lands of Siculi until he met near Agirius' army Dionysius. He managed to attract to his side Agirian tyrant Agiris, promising to give him large tracts of surrounding lands if the war ends successfully. Agiris readily supplied the army of Dionysius with food and everything necessary and united his army with the army of the Syracusan tyrant. Deprived of supplies, Magon was in a difficult situation and was forced to sign a peace treaty, as a result of which the Punic army returned back to Africa and over the lands of the Siculi, henceforth recognized the power of Dionysius. Thus were the former faithful allies of Carthage betrayed. The disappointment that gripped Carthage after Magon's return was very great. Having overpowered Magon and expelled him from Sicily, Dionysius continued to expand his dominions. In the following years, he took possession of territories that had never before been within the sphere of Syracusan influence. After gathering an army, he landed on the coast of Italy in 300 transport ships and attacked the Italic Greeks. In the process, he formed an alliance with the Lucanians, and the following year he defeated the Italiots on the Aleperus River, almost completely destroying their small army led by the Syracusan Gelarides, once banished from the city by Dionysius. Dionysius then forced the city of Regius into peace, demanding that it pay him 300 talents and give up its entire fleet. Next, he captured Cavlonia. The inhabitants of this city he moved to Syracuse, giving them citizenship and exempt from paying taxes for 5 years, after which he razed the city to the ground, and the possessions of the Cavlonians gave the Locrians. He felt obliged to repay them for the marriage to which they had consented. At the same time, he was eager for revenge against the regions, remembering the daughter of the city's executioner. The peace he had made with Regius earlier was only intended to deprive the city of its naval forces. After a long 11-month siege, during which Dionysius himself was severely wounded in the groin by a spear, he took Regius by storm. In the city, Dionysius found mountains of dead bodies, starved to death, and the living he captured looked more like dead men and were very emaciated. All whom he captured he sent to Syracuse with orders that those who could pay a ransom for themselves should be set free, and those unable to raise such a sum would be sold into slavery. The strategist of the regions, Phaethon, was severely tortured by Dionysius, after which he drowned him and his family in the sea. Most Sicilian Greeks mourned Phaethon, and many poets later lamented his unfortunate fate in their poems. At the same time, Dionysius established a strong base for his fleet at Lissa. He built a shipyard and enclosed the city with a wall so large that its circumference was the largest of all Greek cities. After Dionysius drove the Carthaginians to the western edge of Sicily, the vast majority of the island was in one way or another under his control. The power of the Tyrant of Syracuse extended to the entire southwestern tip of Italy. Under his control were also strategic points on the coast of the Adriatic and Tyrrhenian seas. Thus, Dionysius became the founder of the new Sicilian power. The thought of completely expelling the Punians from Sicily apparently never left Dionysius, so he attacked the harbor of the Etruscan city of Agylla, looting the temple located there. A year later, he attacked the west of Sicily again, attacking Punic cities. Carthaginians, through ambassadors, demanded the restoration of the former position, and after a negative response, Dionysius declared war on him. In doing so, they made an alliance with the Italic Greeks, who hated Dionysius's power. As a result, Dionysius was forced to fight on two fronts, but in the first battle with Punic at Cabala defeated them. In this battle killed a large number of Carthaginian soldiers, among whom was their commander Magon, and no fewer were taken prisoner. Impressed by this defeat, the Carthaginians proposed a peace treaty. Dionysius replied that he was willing to do so if they would surrender all their Sicilian cities to him and pay their war expenses. These were too heavy demands for Punians, and they, having transferred command to the son of the dead Magon, named Himilcon, began to prepare for a new battle. The battle took place at Cronia, located near the Punian city of Panormus. Himilcon was able to fully avenge his fallen father with a brilliant victory. The Greeks lost more soldiers, among them Dionysius's brother Leptinus, who commanded one of the flanks. After the battle, the Carthaginian troops returned to Panormus and then sent ambassadors to Dionysius, giving him the opportunity to end the war. Although it was quite possible to put Dionysius tough demands, the Carthaginians, unlike Dionysius, put forward quite moderate conditions. They received the city of Selinant with its territory, as well as the possessions of Acrahant up to the river Gallicus, plus Dionysius paid for military expenses. An overjoyed Dionysius immediately agreed to the Carthaginian proposals. The terms of this peace show that the Carthaginians' goals for Sicily were hardly expansionist. As had often been the case in the past, they were content to dominate the western part of Sicily, and, with respect to the Sicilians, sought to maintain the status quo. Another anti-Carthaginian adventure by Dionysius this time ended in failure. Despite the defeat at Cronius, Dionysius relatively quickly recovered from its consequences. In a few years, he amassed a new army and once again invaded the Carthaginian possessions in Sicily. The moment was well chosen. In Carthage at this time broke out another plague. In addition, again rebelled Libyan tribes. To somehow justify his actions, Dionysius, as a pretext, used border violations, which were constantly committed by both sides. He intended to drive a wedge between Punic and non-Punic cities in the Carthaginian zone of influence. This succeeded only partially. Only the Greek Selinuntus and Campanian Entella came over to his side. Dionysius then captured the city of Eryx and besieged Lilybaeum, but there were so many enemy troops there that he abandoned the siege. According to reports from Carthage, the shipyards of the Carthaginians were burned. Syracuse Tyrant believed this message and returned to Syracuse 170 warships and only 130 of his best tryers sent to the harbor of Eryx. But the news of the fire turned out to be disinformation. Soon a strong Carthaginian fleet of 200 ships suddenly raided the harbor, and the Punians captured most of the Greek ships. Later, when winter came, both sides made peace and dispersed to their respective cities. Thus ended Dionysius's last war against the Carthaginians. Death came to the tyrant of Syracuse not on the battlefield, where he had so often risked his life, but during a festival. After the unexpected tragedy of Dionysius's victory at the wine festival in Athens, he was so overjoyed that he made sacrifices to the gods for the good news and organized a lavish feast with abundant libations. Dionysius generously treated his friends, not forgetting himself, as a result of which, according to Diodorus of Sicily, he fell ill. The tyrant was never able to recover from the illness and soon died. Cornelius Nepos gives another version. After Dionysius fell ill, his heir Dionysius the Younger, the tyrant's son from Dorida of Locris, began to fear that his father would transfer part of his kingdom to two other sons from his favorite wife, Aristomache. Concerned about this, Dionysius the Younger ordered a potent sleeping pill to be given to his father. Having taken it, the sick man fell asleep and never woke up again. Died Dionysius the Elder ruled Syracuse for 38 years. He remained in the memory of descendants as a tyrant, ready to go to any cruelty for the sake of preserving power. In the struggle for the throne, he faced a constant threat to his life. Cicero, in Tusculan Conversations, tells an incident, an expression from which has become a winged expression. One day, one of Dionysius's favorites, the frivolous Damocles, began to speak enviously about the patron as the happiest man who had achieved everything he could wish for. After these words, Dionysius put Damocles in his seat during a sumptuous feast. The happy Damocles was in seventh heaven, until he suddenly discovered that right above his head on a horsehair hangs a heavy sword, capable at any moment to fall on the head of the one sitting on the throne. Then Dionysius admonished all his cronies that Damocles was able to fully experience what the tyrant and ruler of the city himself constantly experiences: fear for his life.